Lab 43 will give you more practice with arrays. Now, this program can be easily written with 3 cout statements. So I want you to make sure that you follow these instructions because I will be grading it manually. So therefore, if you do not follow the instructions, you will have your points taken away. Your program should output the days of the week incorporating the items below. So this assignment requires the following. We need to define an array of characters and initialize it using a string literal. Name the array of characters title. So this is going to be our array name, and it's going to be an array of characters, so type char. And then we need to initialize it to the string days of the week program. Now, we are told to see Lecture 7B, slides 9 and 10 for an example. And so I'm going to take you there. Slides 9 and 10. All right, the 9 and 10 example is down here at the bottom. So the third bullet says you can quickly define character arrays like this, but this only applies to character arrays. So this statement right here is creating an array called fname, and it's an array of characters, and it's initializing it to Henry. So what happens when this array is defined and initialized is that memory is allocated and initialized to the string, and each element of the array is made up of a single character in the string. So this is fname sub 0. The E is fname sub 1. This is fname sub 2, fname sub 3, fname sub 4, and notice that this null terminator is tacked on the end. Remember earlier in the semester when I said every string in C++ has this invisible null terminator tacked on the end? Well, that is what you see here in the array. So once we've defined and initialized fname, we can easily use a cout statement to output the entire array by using just the array name. Now, it is important that you know that this only works for arrays of characters. If you want to output all of the elements in any other array type, you have to output them using a for loop as shown here in the first bullet. Notice this for loop iterates through every single item in the tests array and outputs each of those items. Okay, let's go back and let's look at our days of week program. We are supposed to initialize an array called title. Here's our title name with this value. So just like fname was set to Henry, we can set title to the days of the week program. And then we need to print using a single cout. So in other words, don't use a loop, just like you saw in the PowerPoint, use a single cout. Instead of fname here, we're going to be outputting title. And when we initialize and create our array, the only thing you need to change up here is fname to title and what's inside the double quotes to the days of the week program. Next, we're supposed to define and initialize an array of strings in a single statement. So this requires us to create a variable called days of week that is an array variable of type string, and then we need to define a size that is appropriate for the array, or we can use implicit array sizing. In other words, we can leave the size declarator out and just go ahead and use an initialization list to initialize our array with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, I'm going to pull up the 7-4.cpp so that you can see the example that it's referring to. This is very similar to our program because this program is declaring an array of strings called planets. Now, our size is 7. This size is 9 because there's 9 planets. But the initialization list, notice it opens with a curly brace and ends with a closed curly brace. Each element is separated with a comma. And because it's an array of strings, we have string literals in double quotes. So ours will be MON for Monday, TUE for Tuesday, WED for Wednesday, and so on. This is how we will define our days of week array. Going back, we now look at the next requirement. It says to use a range-based for loop. That was covered in the PowerPoint, so I'm going to take you back to the PowerPoint, but we need to use this range-based for loop to output the days of week array. So in other words, this array up here that we've defined and initialized needs to be output using a range-based for loop. So I'm going to take you back to our PowerPoint and look at a range-based for loop. This range-based for loop is outputting the values in the numbers array. So the way a range-based for loop works, there is no need for a counter. It iterates through your array for you. Notice that the variable that's defined has to match, the data type has to match the data type of the array. That's because at each iteration of this range-based for loop, it's going to temporarily hold the value that is in that array. So in other words, the first iteration of the loop, val will hold as a 10. And so when we see out val, we're outputting the 10. The next time through this loop, val will hold the 20, so we'll output the 20. The next time through this loop, val will hold the 30, so we'll output the 30. You don't have to keep up with the number of elements in this loop. It's done for you behind the scenes. This range-based for loop will go through every single element in the numbers array. So we're going to use that in our program to output our days of week array. And then last, we need to use a regular old for loop because we're going to have to print the contents of the days of the week array, but in reverse order. So what that will require us to do is output the last element first. So in other words, this is days of weeks of 6, this is days of weeks of 5, this is days of weeks of 4, and so on. So you will be iterating through the array backwards, but what you need to make sure that you realize is that you can use a regular old for loop for this. You just have to start your counter out at the last element in the array, and you need to decrement your counter in the update section. And your test section, well, it needs to repeat as long as your counter is greater than or equal to 0, because once you hit the 0th element, that is Monday, and that's where you need to stop. Okay, I want you to try to write this program on your own. If you have any questions, you can email me. Be sure that you follow these instructions. Like I said, I'm going to grade this manually, so these instructions need to be followed, and you should not just output this information as is. Okay, good luck, and let me know if you need any help.